In the year 2000, two founders of a struggling startup walked into a sprawling corporate headquarters in Dallas to pitch a $50 million buyout to the kings of the video rental industry. Blockbuster's CEO didn't just decline the offer, he laughed them out of the boardroom. To the corporate giant, mailing DVDs through the post office seemed like a joke, and the internet was nothing more than a passing fad. Today, that startup, Netflix, is worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Meanwhile, the empire that once dominated every Friday night has vanished, leaving behind only a single surviving store in Bend, Oregon. This wasn't an isolated mistake or a simple failure to predict the future. The rejection in Dallas was the logical conclusion of how Blockbuster's leadership viewed their own success, a narrow focus that left them unable to see where their business was truly vulnerable. During the late 90s, Blockbuster was an undeniable cultural institution. With thousands of locations, it was the gateway to every new release, turning movie nights into a multi-billion-dollar machine. But underneath the movie posters and the popcorn, a significant portion of their revenue had a hidden, darker source. They weren't just making money by renting movies. They were making it by penalizing the people who watched them. This chart reveals their true business model. Blockbuster pulled in hundreds of millions annually purely from late fees, penalizing you for keeping a tape an extra day. Their financial growth was tied directly to customer mistakes. The more you failed, the more they succeeded. One of those frustrated customers was a software engineer named Reed Hastings. Legend has it he was hit with a $40 penalty for a copy of Apollo 13, inspiring him to build a better way. He launched Netflix as a subscription service that delivered DVDs by mail. The core promise was simple. You could keep the movies as long as you wanted, with no penalties for late returns. Because Blockbuster relied on income that their customers actively hated paying, their biggest revenue stream was actually their greatest weakness. It created a wide-open opportunity for a competitor to steal their entire user base. To understand why Blockbuster's CEO felt confident in 2000, you have to look at the economy. The dot-com bubble was violently bursting, and tech companies that had burned through millions in venture capital were vanishing overnight. Wall Street had turned against the internet. Even Amazon was being mocked as Amazon.bomb, with analysts predicting bankruptcy because they didn't believe e-commerce could ever be profitable. For Blockbuster's John Antioco, this crash was proof that his physical stores were the only thing that mattered. He viewed the internet as a sideshow, a distraction from the real business of real estate and retail. The leadership at the top misunderstood their own product. They believed the value was the store experience, the carpets and the popcorn, failing to realize that their customers only cared about the data on the disc. This economic crisis provided the perfect cover for a strategic failure. It allowed the incumbent to believe the threat had passed, just as the digital shift was beginning to accelerate. While Blockbuster focused on stores, Jeff Bezos was looking at a different data point. The internet was growing at 2,300% a year. He knew that this growth was a gravitational force that would eventually consume every industry. Bezos used physical books as a starting point, but they were never the end goal. They were a tool to build the logistical habits and the customer base for an entirely digital future. Reed Hastings and Netflix adopted the exact same logic. Shipping DVDs through the mail was a bridge, a way to build a movie-watching habit while the technology for the real goal was still being developed. Blockbuster looked at the DVD by mail service and saw the final version of the business. They missed that Netflix was always preparing for the day when the physical disc wouldn't be necessary at all. Modern disruptors often lead with a physical product to establish the infrastructure for a digital network. By the time the industry leader realizes the medium has changed, the network is already in place. By the time Netflix officially launched its streaming service, they had perfected their strategy. They didn't even spend money building their own physical server rooms. Instead, they rented digital space from Amazon Web Services. Netflix took the very infrastructure Jeff Bezos built and used it to bypass Blockbuster's physical footprint, piping movies directly into the home. Blockbuster finally saw the danger, but it was too late. They were paralyzed by the crushing debt of thousands of physical store leases, real estate that had suddenly become a massive liability rather than an asset. Burdened by fixed costs and an inability to adapt, Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy in 2010, disappearing from the map almost as quickly as they arrived. They joined companies like Borders and Circuit City, giants that defined their industries for years before being swept away by digital pressure. The fall of Blockbuster is a reminder of Jeff Bezos's famous warning: "Your margin is my opportunity." If you build an empire on customer irritation, it's only a matter of time before a competitor uses that irritation to destroy you.